lot for showing up. It's another Friday night here at UFO AZ Talks. Tonight is going to be a show you've been waiting for. We've been doing this show for going on 5 years, and it's called UFO AZ, and some people have been saying, where are the UFOs? Where's the meat? And tonight we're going to show it, and I think that if any of you are out there taping it, switch it over to SP instead of long play or EP, because this is a show that you gonna want to keep. I have a friend of mine and a videographer that's going to be here today, and we're going to show you clips of UFOs from around the world, daytime, nighttime. Some of you living in Phoenix, some of you in Tucson will see some of the recent shots. Some of these shots will be shown that were shown on sightings. Some of the stuff we're going to be shown, sightings chose not to shoot, and we're going to shoot those. But before we get into the show, a couple of announcements. First of all, anybody out there that videotaped last week's show, we didn't get a copy of it. And I'd appreciate a copy of it. So if anybody out there has videotaped last week's show and hasn't copied over it yet, please give me a call at 323-2371. I'd like to get a copy of it. There's something I want everybody to know also, that next week we won't be live here, but there will be a show running, I think. So stay tuned with that. A lot of people wanted to know about Donald Ware and the One World Order, and we're going to try to run that next week. But for those of you that don't want to be at home and want to be with the rest of us, we have the Oasis Awards, which is kind of an Emmys here at Access Tucson, and we want to be able to invite every one of you out there that's viewing to come and support not only myself, Jim, and Peggy and UFO AZ, but Helga Morrow and the Morrow Chronicles, and
Human Consciousness for the 21st Century.
Thank you.
Rosemary Jackson.
And the rest of the producers that are here at Access Tucson that provide the television viewing for yourself. And the place that you can go is at the
Tucson
School for the Blind. And for information about that, you can get it here at TCCC. Does it say right on that card? Because I can't read it, Peggy. Neither can you.
I know, I've got it. The information, 624-9833.
And it starts at 6 o'clock, and it'll go on till about 10 o'clock, and it's going to be an exciting evening. All three of the shows that we just announced, they have tapes. We all have tapes entered into it, and we'd like to have your support for this gala, and it'll be a fun time. There will be hors d'oeuvres.
It's not just for supporting our shows, it's for supporting Tucson Access.
Is supporting Tucson Access.
Yes.
We and other producers throughout this, the community here really try to put on the best viewing that we possibly can. Some of it you might not like, but there are other people out there that do enjoy all types of viewing. So please come out and support us here at Access Tucson. With that,
yeah, I'd also like to add that when you come out and show that you support public access, it sends a message to the city and to the cable corporations, who I think now could possibly cancel it if they want,
yes,
that the viewing public is interested in public access and they do want it to continue. So for that reason, please support it.
And once again, that's Friday night, next Friday night at 6 o'clock. There's hors d'oeuvres from 6 to 7, and please come out and support us once again.
Yes. Okay, we have the first ever UFO AZ video and audio catalog. This catalog now contains over 50 titles of videos from shows and from our interviews at the different conferences. All the top people in the UFO field are included in here. And we also have Jim and my prints from our artwork. So this is available by calling the famous number 323-2371. That's the area code 520. You can also write UFO AZ, P.O. Box 213, Tucson, Arizona 85702-0213. So if you'd like to get the catalog so you can order the best of UFO AZ, just send away for it.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss
Don't
it.
miss it.
Operators are standing by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for those of you, maybe perhaps a bit more in our unseen video audience out there, you want to mark your calendars for the upcoming New Age and UFO expos. They're going to be held this year. First will be at Denver at the Regency Hotel. That will be May 24th through the 27th. The next one after that is at Palm Springs at the Marquis Crown Plaza, and that'll be August 2nd through the 4th. And lastly, it'll be at Phoenix, the Holiday Inn Mesa, October 18th through the 21st. So, like I say, mark your calendars, and if you're viewers in the vicinity of these areas, you're going to want to check out these expos.
Yeah, the first one coming up, I know a little bit about who's going to be there. They're trying to get Lonnie Zamora, that'll be at the Denver conference. Betty Andreasen, that has written, Ray Fowler has written many books on her, The Watcher, and they're coming out with The Watcher 2. And then Brad Steiger, you know, the pioneer that's been around for an awful long time, that has pioneered one of the pioneers in the subject, and has written over 100 books on the subject. So if you can, and you're in those areas, or if you need further information, feel free to give us a call or write us, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that.
Isn't the Palm Springs conference going to be also being held near Giant Rock?
Well, Giant Rock, Palm Springs is about a half an hour away from Giant Rock.
But isn't there going to be a gathering there?
There will be a gathering there, from what I've been told, and some of the speakers there will be George Van Tassel's grandson, which pioneered it and had the Integratron and had the airport out at Giant Rock, and some of the largest UFO gatherings ever were held at Giant Rock in the 50s. And also people like Daniel Boone that pioneered it. Bob Short will be there. He was around and lived in that area. And George Green will be there. The only person to ever run for the President of the United States under the UFO platform. So it should be a great time, and those of you in the Phoenix and Tempe and that whole metro center up there, that will be occurring in the later part of November, I think. So mark your calendars. Peggy, Jim, and I, we're all going to try to make it there, and so we'd appreciate your support. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce a friend of mine. I met him a couple years ago. He's been in the field. I met him the first time. He came up to me in Jan Ross bookstores with a mask and said that he was making, or had the ability to do some making and forming these ET masks. And since then he's ventured into the video field. He's tried to get 7 or 8, sometimes 20 cameras at one time, shooting at a single spot to be able to calculate and so that when they go to check out the video film in Phoenix, that they can triangulate and make sure what's been happening, which is a novel idea that has never happened before. He's also gotten very adept of taking the video that comes to him or that he shoots and runs it through a computer and analyzes it, you know, stitch by stitch or pixel by pixel. And he's brought to us today a bunch of video that was either given to him or he shot himself, and some of the stuff that you, the viewer out there, has sent me. And we're going to get right into it. But the first section, before we go in, is a section that was a docudrama, and it was presented in 1956, and it is actual footage that was shot during that period of time. So if that Roland's ready, go ahead, guys, and run it up.
This is the Montana film, projected exactly as it was photographed. The objects are moving against a 25 to 28 mile an hour wind. This is the film in double frame or slow motion. A slight bounce in the movement of the objects as well as the tower is perceptible. This is due to the handheld camera. The film, analyzed frame by frame, shows the movement of the objects to be horizontal and steady.
We will now vary the action and size of the objects and also stop the action from time to time for your study. We have just made a jump cut in the film to an enlarged size and reversed the action. You are now seeing the objects exactly as they were photographed, but from a closer perspective. Analysis reveals that the objects are not balloons, nor any kind of known aircraft. The images are very different from those produced by any kind of birds at any distance. The shape, brightness, speed, rectilinear path, steady motion, and separation rule out various forms of optical atmospheric mirages or cloud reflections. Comprehensive analysis has eliminated meteors and other known natural phenomena. The possibility of airplane reflection has been carefully studied and ruled out.
This is the Utah film as it was originally photographed.
The image structure and maneuvers definitely eliminate any kind of known aircraft.
This is where Chief Photographer Newhouse, in his excitement, changed exposure. He believed that by changing density and giving the film more contrast, he could clarify the objects. The single object that reversed its course. The bounce is due to handheld camera. Now we study the action of one section of the film. We stop the action. We move in.
Within a 5-mile range, aircraft could be determined. In excess of 5 miles, the speeds are greater than aircraft can achieve, except in straight-line speed runs. The movement here follows an elliptical or circular pattern. Microscopic examination reveals that the objects are well focused. Their size varies from 1/6 to 1/10 the size of the moon, as it appears to the naked eye. Their form is circular and sometimes elliptical. This fits the commonly used flying saucer description.
Observe the object in the upper left corner. We move in to study the action. The object upper left will go out of frame on widescreen projection. Observe the motion of the two objects upper right as we rock them back and forth. Now we move over and up on the frame to make a closer study of the object in the upper left corner.
Examine this object closely. Compare it with those objects you saw in the Montana film. These films were taken approximately 2 years apart, hundreds of miles apart.
We drop back to the original perspective and resume. Now the section of the film where photographer Newhouse changed exposure.
Weather conditions, together with the persistence and motion of the formations, eliminate the possibility of atmospheric mirages. Photogrammetric experiments have shown that the images cannot be associated with any kind of birds at any distance.
Stop. Now forward again. Stop. We drop back to original perspective. Now once again, and for the last time, the Utah film.
The objects cannot be associated with any known balloon observations.
For the last time, the Montana film.
The motion picture you have just seen is authentic. It is substantiated by documentation, eyewitness accounts supported by affidavits, and official government reports. The evidence has been presented to you with integrity and objectivity to establish the fact that unidentified flying objects, commonly known as flying saucers, do exist. Some kind of flying objects have been photographed in the sky. If they cannot be identified as objects known to man, what are they? If they are not man-made, who made them? If they are not from this planet, where are they from?
You know, this is a film that I believe I saw at the drive-in when I was about in the 3rd grade. And I was so disappointed because they didn't show UFOs like, you know, the day the Earth stood still. I want them to come and land, you know, and the sucker to go walk out and on the White House lawn and talk to the world, you know, kind of we're here to save the world or whatever. But so for a 3rd grader, this was something of a disappointment, but I think that's a really remarkable film for its day. And we've come a long way since then with UFO footage, and we're still asking the same questions today.
Yeah, what's nice about this is it's film, and it was and it was analyzed by the U.S. government, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, or not pixels then, but frame by frame, to try to identify what it is. And they came up with unknowns. They don't know what it is. They just said it isn't birds. They're not balloons. Their favorite thing. And it was, I think, for the time, like you said, this came out in 1956. And in 52, right after the big flap, everybody was poo-hooing and downgrading the UFO. So I'm really surprised that this came out. It's really nice that it came out.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting, though, that we're still just showing this sort of footage?
It is. We're still
you know, here
showing
is
the home movies, aren't
home
we?
movies,
Yeah,
1996.
Yep. So what other home movies have you to share with us?
How does this compare to what we've been seeing, Tom, now?
Yeah, well, it looks like we're seeing the same objects that have been filmed ever since they started filming with cameras. Now we're videotaping it. And more people have video cameras, so there's more videotapes coming in. But at the same time, it looks like the sightings are going up because there's just videotapes coming out of the woodworks from people everywhere. I mean, every week, some country has a UFO sighting. Poland had one last week. It was the first time they ever videotaped a UFO in Poland. And the government said it was real.
So a lot of when we have this type of evidence, you can't say that it's false. And that's why maybe some of these governments they're starting to take their foot out of their mouth and allowing to say what's really happening, what's really going on. This is going to be a real fast-paced show, so we're going to get right into the next video roll-in, and this next video roll-in will be some that you possibly have seen in the past, but they're from around the world. The first one, I think, is going to be shown in Japan, then it'll possibly go into Mexico, and try to compare some of these sightings with the original film sightings that we saw just here. So if that's ready, go ahead and play that, guys.
これはそうあら見えてる見えてる見えてる源さんずっと見えてますよここそうあれ見えてる見えてる来て来て来て来て見えてるそうそう高感度カメラが捉えた謎の発光体あれ俺目じゃよくわかんないけどよく見えるわこれあ薄くなった薄くなったちょっと音は違うんですよあれは飛行機ですもんねあれは飛行機違う本当だ全然光が違うわ違うのほら今移動したり左っていうのはあれがそうなんだそうだ俺が見てるのはそうなんだやっぱりそう今そうですさっきからはあ ょうど左上でしょ。
ちょうど左上。あそこに上がったんです。
すごい。いや、今度ほら塔がちゃんと見えてるから。
後ろね。
Sometimes I simply strolled along the air corridors over this sprawling city, demonstrating their aerial prowess in a somewhat playful manner as they played peekaboo among the billowing clouds. New skywatch groups, armed with binoculars and camcorders, anxiously waited as an amazing story began to unfold, centering on one patient man who was producing an abundance of extraordinary video. His afternoon breaks were spent atop an office building where he scanned the murky skies above the city, searching for and finding the unique flight characteristics of the unknowns. But these classifications are not singular, for many have counterparts that have been seen in other locations around the globe. Two or more distinct classifications of
Well, that was, we saw footage there from about 3 different places. The last was videotaped in New Jersey by Posey Gilbert, and it was sort of interesting at one point where he was focusing the camera and the image was out of focus. What you saw was more the shape, not the brightness of the light. In the Japanese footage, which started this segment, we had what you didn't see was a woman who apparently telepathically connects and contacts the ships, sort of a sea-SETI thing, and she was calling them in, and I guess they were very excited because one showed up and sort of responded to her, or at least it appeared to be responding to her. And the middle segment was the Lee and Britt Elder's video footage in Mexico. And that one craft was supposed to be, was it Sirius or Venus?
Well, I don't know. Anybody can take your pick, but they've claimed it was Venus.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy about that, and several people have said that that was Venus, which was zipping in and out of the clouds and getting in front of the clouds. So pretty remarkable for Venus.
Did you interpret all of that Japanese? Is that what they were saying all this time?
Oh, I can tell you every word.
And was that what
It
they were
was like,
saying?
wow, look at that.
Yeah, was it?
Something like that.
Well, that kind of showed us a segment of what we're seeing now. A lot of this was shown in 1991. This is the stuff that Lee and Britt Elders first came out with a tape called Messengers of Destiny of the Mexico sightings. And then they turned around and came out with Masters of the Stars. And I want to take my hat off to Lee and Britt. They've spent an awful lot of time down in Mexico, along with Jaime Musan, to try to get this type of video footage so that they're able to bring it to the viewing audience. The same way with Posey Gilbert. I'm sorry, I have to apologize for the quality of that last series, but that's how I received it. And Posey said that I said, how did you get this stuff? He says, well, I would just be getting some kind of a ringing in my ears, and I was kind of told to go outside and take my camera and point it up in that direction, and there they were. And this happened 3 or 4 or 5 different times. We're not going to have enough time to show it all, and I want to thank Posey for having it. But this isn't the first time we've heard of something like this, people going out. Meyer, for instance, had that same type of an idea. He knew when they were going to be there by ringing in his ear, that type of stuff. And once again, let me ask you, is this what we're seeing now?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people plan on trips to Mexico City to see UFOs, and they wonder why don't they cross the border into the United States? Why is this massive phenomenon down in Mexico City? What everybody's going to see pretty soon is if it was limited to Mexico, it's not anymore, because it looks like this is a nationwide or international event. These sightings are happening all over the United States, and we have 3 people in 3 parts of the country filming this, and we're getting massive amounts of UFO videos, amounts that nobody had before. And anybody can shoot this stuff. You just have to spend the time outside and buy a lot of blank videotapes, and you'll start filling these tapes up with UFOs before you know it.
Jim, any comments?
Well, they don't cross the border because they don't have green cards.
They don't want to be an alien?
There you have it.
Well, Tom, most of your video footage has been during the day, though,
Yeah.
hasn't it? Do you just go out there and just aim the camera up and start taping?
Well, I came into this kind of as a second thing. I didn't discover this or come upon this. Somebody else accidentally looked up at the sun and seen a large cylinder up there. And he was standing underneath the shade of his house to see it. And if he was standing out in the open, he'd look up and be blinded by the sun. Later they looked around more and they found a lot of these objects are hiding within the 1,000,000-degree corona of the sun, which is an excellent place to hide because we can't look there. But with a pair of sunglasses and standing in the shade looking around the sun, and you look past the lint and the cotton flying around, you'll see some high altitude objects flying around 10,000 feet or higher. And we focused our attention on these objects and got hundreds, if not thousands, of these things going through the clouds.
You know, when you brought that up, there's something that needs to be said about being close to the sun, because the Mexican flap that started 7/11 of 91, no coincidence, the UFO AZ started the same day, but that's the day that the eclipse, the total eclipse.
Yeah.
And when they stuck the cameras up to shoot the total eclipse, that's when they started finding the UFOs.
Exactly. There is definitely a correlation with the eclipse and the solar footage that we're filming. There's a connection with the sun. We don't know what that's about. We know what some of the objects are and what they look like, but there's definitely a connection with the sun for some reason. And I've studied other solar tapes, such as NASA solar stuff during the 1991 eclipse in Hawaii. You don't see this type of phenomenon. You see nothing flying around the sun in other videos where you just watch TV, they show the sun, you don't see anything flying around. But since June or July, when you look up there, you're going to see something that looks like a bright star next to the sun zipping around.
You know, Jim, in the early 1900s, that reminds me of a tape that I was viewing that the astronomers were looking at the sun. Now, help me out here. There was a planet called Voltaire?
Voltaire?
No, that came, what was the
Keep
one?
talking.
Vulcan, it was Vulcan, I think it was. The planet Vulcan that they named Vulcan, that came in front of the sun, and they actually videoed or filmed this planet, what they thought was a planet, going in front of the sun like this. And if you view the tape, it actually looks like a flying disc from a distance flying in front of it. And then they said they never could see it again. They were expecting it to come back around again, but they felt that it exploded. And this is Hoyle, and these are some of the other renowned scientific people at that time. And there's written documentation on just this, having going across the sun. So this might be something very early that they thought was some type of a planet or something that they were viewing inside the sun, the area of the sun.
Well, you know, there is within the metaphysical community, there is a theory that the sun is actually an interdimensional portal, and that craft can come through there in another dimension.
Speaking of that, there's something I captured last Sunday on film. I've been looking up there, and every now and then I look and I see something that looks like a shock wave. Something that looks like you throw a rock in a pond and there's a ripple. It looks like there's a ripple going through the sky. And I captured one of them on videotape last Sunday on a 30-power lens, and the clouds were rippling as UFOs were going through. Like it looks like an explosion from a bomb hitting the ground, and the shock wave goes off. That type of stuff happens every so often up there. It's like the sky's being ripped open, and these things are materializing with cylinders. It's orbs and saucer-shaped craft and cylinders makes up the majority of what's flying around there.
What about Phanoma? Phanoma had a disc come from the sun.
The pulsing sun phenomenon.
Right.
The pulsing sun that Dr. Kiefer brought in.
Kiefer had.
Yes.
You know, there certainly seems to be a correlation now that we're doing this. And I want to tell everybody out there that has a video camera, don't go running up and shooting it in the sun, because you burn out your camera most likely.
Yeah, and in less than 1 minute, you'll burn out your camera, whether it's tube or chip.
So don't run up there and do that. Get yourself shaded off to the way, and we're not advocating taking your camera and shooting the sun, because you'll destroy your camera.
Well, you know, in the blinking sun film tape footage, though, the lady who photographed that in Medjugorje, that pulsating sun,
She was shooting right
she was shooting right into the sun for, you know, it was at least 10 minutes.
It should have burned out that camera, because I burned out a camera already. Tim Edwards burned out 2 cameras now. It doesn't take long to burn out your eyes or the camera. We are not filming the sun. We're filming beside the sun, the glare, the corona. And when it gets really wild, you don't need the sun anymore. You could flip the camera around, point north or any other direction of the blue sky, and you'll get this stuff going through clouds at Mach speed. Going back a little farther with the sun history, Michael Hessman has a tape. And on there's an old drawing that's probably a couple hundred years old. And it shows the sun, and it shows these cylinders under the sun with little windows and little other type of objects. It may have been this phenomenon happened earlier.
Yeah, it was happening around the time of the plague, and it's a woodcut that they did. And also, they also have another woodcut, what they call balls coming from the sun, and discs coming from the sun. So I never even thought of that correlation, but here we have it. We've got what you're going to see here a little bit later. You were shooting, and so was Tim Edwards, just right out of the sun's view.
Yeah.
And that's where these huge crafts are coming in. The next part of the video footage that we have came to us through a gentleman that was here on the show about a year ago, Mr. Ferris. And he had done some work along with Jose and Escamilla and the taping out there by Roswell of the rods and different things. And so he gave me this part of this videotape, and I don't know whether what you're going to see is actual or if it's been hoaxed. We haven't had a chance to check it out. I'm going to give you some of this footage so you can put it into the computer to be able to find out whether or not it's transposed. So you guys out there isn't any audio on this. So we're going to ask to leave our mics up, and so we can talk about this as it goes. So if that's ready, go ahead and play that section, please. This is something that is flying through the trees, similar to what was taken by Ed Walters at Gulf Breeze. It has a mysterious kind of a corona in the way it moves through the trees. There wasn't any sound associated with this particular craft. And there's about 8 or 9, well, maybe 5 minutes of this that it was shot, and we're only going to show a portion of this. Then we're going to go into a little bit of a section of video stills that were taken. This is what they call like a wash tub. You made mention, Tim, that it was something like possibly out of Star Wars.
It looks like the pod R2-D2 and C-3PO ejected on the beginning of Star Wars, because I had one of those toys as a little kid when that movie came out, and it looks just like it.
Now, some of these are so close to looking like some of the Meyer case, and this was what that catches me off guard. They're just almost too darn good. But once again, I don't know. They could very well be actual.
Now, where were these
crafts.
photographed?
This was brought to us by a gentleman named Hawkins from Gulf Breeze.
These are photographed in the Gulf Breeze area?
In the Gulf Breeze area.
I notice a lot of times when photographs or videos too good to be true, it's an instant denial factor comes up that this has to be faked. It's too good to be true. Everybody would believe in it. But then down the road, years later, you kind of look back on it after it sinks in and think, well, maybe it is real.
Well, we showed some of this earlier in the year, I think, and some of it shows different crafts, helicopters in the way, buzzing them. You made a mention, why didn't they have a video camera with them? Oh, I'm glad that they just had a still camera with them. A lot of times people forget that they have a camera sitting right next to them because of the sighting that they're viewing.
Well, another problem, too, if a UFO's that close to you, it'll probably knock out your video camera
Oh, and
because
there's
of the electrical
helicopter.
field.
Yeah, there's the helicopter coming into view.
Oh, that's the helicopter or the stealth fighter, one of the
Yeah.
two.
Now, the reason why some of us are saying that these could possibly be fake, because I've talked to some Air Force people, and they said, they're Air Force people again, but they said that some of these planes, the stealth fighter and some of these other planes, can't pull out of a dive being that close, making some of these turns and angles that they do. But once again, I don't know. I have no idea. This is something that's left up to you, the viewer, and possibly later on being able to scan these and view them. Some people, no matter what you do, are going to say they're true or false.
Have you worked with Randy Winters in any of the footage that he's
As
come up with
far
from
as
Florida recently?
I've seen just a little bit of the one that flew right over the airport, but I haven't been able to analyze any of that tape yet or compare it to what I've been shooting.
At Mesquite, we saw footage that he has from Florida where a gentleman's driving down the freeway in Miami, and this craft is keeping pace with him. And it's it's not the planet Venus. It's it's obvious. You can see the shape of the craft, and it's very similar to what you're seeing here. Only it's at night and it's glowing.
You know, I also want to say that we're going to come to the end of this here, I think, the segment. Yeah, why don't you guys come up on me now? Go ahead. What we were saying, once again, was some videotape shot from Gulf Breeze and given to us. After the Mexico sighting, there was a gentleman in the audience that's with Psychops, which is a scientific
Committee for Claims of the Paranormal.
Yeah, they're debunkers.
Yeah.
And he came out and told me when we had the Lee and Britt Elders Genesis 3 tape showing all this Mexico stuff, he said that was planet Venus, and he came up to me and said, "You're no researcher." And I said, "Well, no, we're television hosts. We do a little bit of research." He says, "Well, I've done all the research on that particular video footage, and it's the planet Venus." And I turned around and said, "Well, that's real good." I told this gentleman his name, and I knew who he was. And I said, "If you have, and you've done the research and all of this, we welcome you to come on the television show and show us, prove to us that this is all bad." He hasn't called me yet to bring this footage. So it's easy to sit out in the audience and say that, no, that's planet Venus, but yet Venus, I haven't been able to see Venus go this way, and then in that particular footage that we showed, it's been freeze-framed and then turned around, and David Froning took and analyzed that, and there was 4 other craft in it going in and out, playing hide-and-go-seek within the clouds. And later on, the other footage goes, the craft goes in front of the clouds. So Venus can go in front of the clouds and play back and forth. That's something very unique, and I'd like to see his proof of that.
It'd be pretty astounding.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And you know, the problem with a lot of the photos that we get we don't have the time nor the finances to analyze every single one that's out there to make sure that it's true or
Chris, you have to remember that we're actively involved in recreational primitivism here, being that we're into UFOs. According to Time magazine, that people who research UFOs we're throwbacks to the primitives here because we're howling at the moon or something.
We're all also tabloid mystics.
Tabloid mystics, yeah. Yeah,
that was the other label.
So once again, what would you do with something like this, being able to get into the computers and freeze those up? What would you do?
Well, you could put it through a series of tests and see how the light reflects off it. As far as pictures, if pictures are faked or the UFO is inserted into the picture, when they took the picture of the UFO, the light's going to be different on that picture than it is in the one they're putting it in. And that's pretty easy to detect with different filters to check the optical density of what you're looking at. And then there's other programs where you could color the stuff in the foreground and color the stuff in the background different colors and see where this fits in between. If it's a fake model, it'll color right up with the trees in the front. And if it's real, it'll be in shades in the back. And there's just a number of filters and 3D programs. You check for motion blur, you check for the edges on it. Close objects that are close to the camera have those hard edges. They're solid. And when something's really far away and a long distance away, it becomes blurry and faint around most of the craft and especially around the edges, which says it's not something close to the camera, because something close to the camera is detail. It has hard, sharp colors, and you can make it out. There's hundreds of programs that most people now with their computer can download a lot of stuff from the internet for free. And then you can get into video boards. You can buy at any computer shop now. You can hook up your cameras. And one of the ideas that I've been thinking about is putting this stuff online on the internet so people can download UFO clips every week. Collect them from people who shot them, put them up there, so it'd be like a news agency that's multimedia, and they can check it out and look at it themselves. And hopefully do this live. It'll be the first time it's
like a weekly UFO scrapbook on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. As
photo scrapbook.
The cyber age grows up, in the age I grew up in, the whole world's going to change as far as how research works instantly.
Have you had a chance to work with any of the Meyer photographs on your own?
Just the one that came over the hill. I looked at that a little bit, but there's the end of the Meyer ones, like the wedding cake photo. That to me looked like a 5-foot object close to the camera because the edges were too hard. There's too much detail in that picture. But
what about the older ones?
The older ones where he took the set where it went around the hill through the valley and he went like this and snapped pictures. I'd say those 100%, that was a real craft at least a couple of blocks away, at least 30 foot long. I mean, I can find no evidence in any of that of a hoax. And some of the video that I've looked at, it doesn't look like, at least half of his video looks to be real.
Can somebody hoax this stuff?
Right now, there's few people who can do it because you have to have a lot of money, a lot of technology to do it. Now, in the next 5 to 6 years, it's going to get harder to tell as computing power becomes faster. It's going to be a new way. Computers are a good way to find out if something's hoaxed. But at the same time, it's going to be easier to hoax stuff with the computer. Every program is an anti-program, so we might run into a virtual UFO that was totally computer generated that looks so real we can't tell the difference. We're going to face that someday.
Why would somebody want to hoax something like this? Why would somebody spend a lot of money in hoaxing this?
Well, it couldn't be for the money because there's no money in this. Ray Santilli never made very much off the alien autopsy. It's got to be for fame or to manipulate people's consciousness.
All right, let me give you an example. If I was to take a laser printer and I was to scan a stealth fighter and scan it and make it about that size, less, a half an inch, very fine detail, and put it on a transparency. Then I'd go ahead and I take a UFO, Meyer craft or an Adamski craft, and do the same thing, but make it a little bit smaller on another transparency. And I hook that to a piece of glass. And I put one piece of glass here, another piece of glass a little further out, one with the UFO, one with the other one, and I shot it with a camera. Can the camera, being only one-dimensional, can it pick up the 3 dimension that I've set outside here, plus the trees for background to give it definition?
Well, the thing is the stealth fighter and the UFO are going to be cutouts. So you're photographing basically a one-dimensional object that's flat in a plane, not a 3-dimensional object. So when you do like a thermal inversion on it, and you check for heat sources, where the light's hitting it, how the shadow's hitting it, it kind of got generically lost when you pasted them up. And then the other thing is too, is in a real photograph, the sun and the light will bounce off every object the same, and when you start pasting stuff together and you put it under a false filter, you turn it black and white. Then you turn it into a color, so it's a black and white version of color. And things that don't belong in a picture, that don't look real to us, tend to stand out pretty good. And as soon as you start doing a series of tests on it with different filters, you'll notice something funny about it.
Well, you said the edges in the real thing, when especially at a distance, the edges have a blur, where the interior is clearer.
Yeah, it would still, the light would be about the same as the sky. If you have an object, you'll notice that the sky color of the blue is around the sky color next to it. An insertion from, say, a darker picture at night, the sky color is different on it. Right. That's one way to tell if somebody inserted something, because the actual object itself will not have the same reflective light pattern that it does next to it, because it was inserted at a different time when the sun was at a different angle.
Have you, you've worked with Jim Delatoso, haven't you?
Yeah.
Did he go over some of your videos that are going to be coming up, your clips?
Yeah, he's went over some of the cylinder footage. I think he's went over the triangular craft. His personnel and people that work with him down there have went over about every tape I've had and watched it. They've went outside and seen this for themselves with the naked eye looking up, and they know something high altitude's going on.
And Jim Delatoso happens to be one of the people that Sightings goes to. And if you've watched Sightings will usually bring Jim Delatoso because of his computer skills and his ability to either verify or call something a hoax within this field. He's one of the top in the field through here, and he is one that brought to the forefront kind of a protocol with this type of stuff. We're going to run into a next series of videos. Now, this one here was sent to me by Mario from New Mexico, and what he has done is he's time-lapsed this at night, and I have to set this up. He said he was having all these strange feelings night after night after night, and nocturnal feelings of different ETs or even coming to him. So he decided that he was going to set up his camera and set it up outside and to see if he could get a craft, and he time-lapsed this on his and there will be one jump in this to try to show you the time-lapse that was involved in here. So with that, we're going to roll right into the next section of this and take a look and see for yourself. We missed that first part of it, but it started up at the left-hand corner of your screen and moved all the way down, whereas the stars did not have a tendency to move at the same rate. Now the crickets come back up once the craft is gone. And he shot this at time-lapse, and what you haven't seen is about 2 hours real quick of video here. But once again, it did start up at the left-hand side of the screen and came in. And I asked him about whether or not it was the moon, and he said no. So I think we have some more coming up here. I hope that it didn't stop on us. There it is. This is some of your stuff.
No, this is Tim Edwards.
Go ahead, explain this.
This was shot on August 27th, which I believe it's the day before the alien autopsy premiered to everyone. His daughter walked outside to see if it was going to rain, looked up and said, "Daddy, Daddy, come outside, there's something up there." And eventually, he went out and looked and seen this object and shot 6.5 minutes of video of this large cylinder.
Do you have a sense for how big this was?
No.
Well,
It's hard to judge, I know from the video.
there's
But,
been a few different size estimates of it, but most people believe it's about a mile long. There were several witnesses with Tim who've seen this too and watched it through binoculars, and they said this thing was gigantic. It was at least a mile long minimum. It has a double row of windows with about 14 windows per row, or light panels. We're still not sure what it is. But my sizes on the windows or light panels are 132 feet by 198 feet at least.
No, what we seem to be seeing is a strobe effect with the lights in there also.
Okay, here's a cylinder I shot on October 8th that's very similar. And you people at home that are recording this, watch this in slow motion when the light shuts off, and you'll see kind of a mercury tube when the lights aren't going. But this one does something interesting where it manipulates space and time by projecting itself and then going to that spot as it exits.
Now the sun is right off to the left, right?
The sun's above it. I'm filming inside my garage, and the garage is blocking the sun. And there's the weird, I term projection propulsion system. I've noticed some patterns. There's some more cylinder footage here. It seems that a little disc will fly out from your left over to your right, and then it's followed by a cylinder. This cylinder seems to fly with a small fleet around it. That's flying just in front of the clouds.
Rhonda! Come here!
I'm trying to get my family up there to see it. Here comes another one. There's the disc shooting by, and then here comes the cylinder.
This
Right
was shot
behind it.
in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, this was shot last month. The rotating light effect going around.
You know, now Peter Davenport said that there was a lot of sightings about last month.
Well, actually, he said in July the sightings, I think, have doubled. He's getting phone calls every day, and I've been tracking the reports online. There's at least 3 calls to the Phoenix area or Arizona every month. Probably 75 people per every person that calls in don't.
Did you look at this also with binoculars?
Keep
Some
going,
of this
guys.
stuff,
Just with the camera?
not the cylinder. Some of the stuff I'll watch with the binoculars, and then as soon as I sight it, I'll aim the video camera on.
What is this? Is this the triangular?
Yeah, this is a triangular craft I filmed on November 11th. And it was green with 3 balls of light at least 10,000 feet. Now, I believe I have about 20 to 25 minutes of this object. The only other daytime footage of a triangular craft was filmed in Russia. And I've been doing some investigation to see if this is the TR-3A Black Manta secret military stealth craft that assists the F-117A stealth fighter. But this is way more exotic. The
seems
Black
like
Manta
it's-
can hover.
It has a rotation to it.
Yeah, it does cartwheels, it flips end over end. I have this craft flipped every angle you could imagine. That I'm going to rip this apart frame by frame and put it in a computer program so you could rotate it and look at it from any size.
Was it flying like horizontally while you were taping this?
It
or-
was doing figure eights when I first seen it. Okay, this one is a disc-shaped craft that was flying from south to north, and towards the end of it, it almost got hit by a plane. If you watch towards the end of it, a big jet will fly by real fast in a few frames, and it looks like it kind of moved around it to get out of its way.
That's hockey puck looking.
Yeah, I've termed these hockey pucks. They kind of have the shape of a long hockey puck, and they're black on bottom.
How would somebody try to debunk this?
Well, it's all balloons. I'm prepared for the sunspot, speech, balloons,
It has to be a
bugs,
weather
birds,
balloon.
clouds. They're going to write all of it off. People have too much footage now. They're going to deny it. They're going to say it's impossible. You're not filming 1,000 craft a month and people aren't seeing this. And they don't realize that these craft are 5 miles away. You have a 30-foot object that's 5-6 miles above you. You're not going to see it. It's too small to see with the naked eye. You can see them, maybe a pinhole. But I'm shooting at extreme power there to even see it at that height. And when it took me a couple months to actually go, okay, I've had it, it's real. I got I got thousands of these things on tape. And what convinced me was watching these things go in and out of clouds, and I'm going, this is just like Masters of the Stars all over again.
But this doesn't have to be alien craft. This could be our own craft. Most of this that we've seen on here could be our own very craft. We've got something that's coming up here. We're running out of time here.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and show this and see what we have?
Okay, the one you just seen, this is a freeze frame of it. We're going to go in and look at it a little closer.
Can you pick that up, Larry? There it is.
Looks like a white type of dome up here and kind of a black line underneath it. If we go and compare that to the object, this is taken from the Mexico City Masters of the Stars tape during the eclipse when the 17 cameras got it. And these objects have a typical kind of optical signature of a silvery disc with a black line on the bottom. Now I found a good comparison to this, and it goes back to 1963 in a photograph taken by Paul Vila. He took a series of 5 photographs, which again were too good to be true. Just lost my image.
Well, let me come up here to me.
Oh, wait, okay.
Okay, we've only got a couple minutes left, and I really want to take this time to thank you very much for coming down there, and I hope you all enjoyed the video footage that we were able to bring to you.
This is our annual UFO.
This is our annual UFO show, and I want to make sure that you all remember next week we're not going to be live. We'd like to see every one of you, please, if there's a time that you can come out and support Helga Moore, myself, or Rosemary Jackson, please, or us here at UFO AZ, please try to make it to the Arizona School for the Blind, 6 o'clock next Friday, and we're going to have a great time. We'll hope that you're there. Once again, thanks a lot. Bye for now. So have you come to any conclusion about any of this? What is it?